What was supposed to be Keir Starmer's big moment has just turned into a political disaster. A policy he thought would define his leadership has instead triggered fury, collapsing support, and left him more isolated than ever. Let's break it down. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. So, let's cut straight to it. Keir Starmer's flagship digital ID scheme has just suffered a total collapse in public support. What was supposed to be one of his defining policy announcements has instead turned into a political humiliation. According to a brand new More in Common poll, only 31% of people now support Labour's digital ID plans, while a clear majority, 45%, oppose them outright. And it's not just the polling numbers. More than 2.6 million people have already signed a petition demanding that Starmer scrap the scheme altogether. Think about that for a moment. Earlier this summer, a majority of the public said they were open to digital IDs. But the second the government put its own name on the plan, support plummeted. Luke Trial, the executive director of More in Common, called it a reverse Midas touch. In other words, everything this government touches turns to dust. Now, let's remember what Starmer actually said when he unveiled the policy last week. These were his exact words. "I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this parliament." Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have a digital ID. It's as simple as that. That's as blunt as it gets. No digital ID, no job. And Starmer thought this would be seen as pragmatic and fair-minded. Instead, it has sparked outrage across the political spectrum. The backlash isn't just coming from voters. It's coming from inside Starmer's own cabinet. Ministers have branded the plan a fantasy, with one warning the Times that it would drive soft-left voters straight into the arms of the Greens and the Liberal Democrats. Even more damning, another minister said the scheme was presented as a fait to complete. Something forced through without proper debate. And their verdict: it's not going to happen. It's too expensive, too complicated. And it recreates systems that already exist, and they're not wrong. Critics are already pointing out that Britain already has e-visas and other forms of migrant documentation. So the question is, what exactly does this new scheme achieve? Apart from alienating millions of voters, the numbers speak for themselves. Reform UK voters who once supported the idea have flipped completely. Back in June, 55% of Reform voters backed to digital ID. Now that number has collapsed to just 24%. While 62% oppose it among Conservative voters, it's the same story. Once a clear majority supported the scheme, now more opposite than back it. That is a huge reversal in just a few months. And it shows how deeply unpopular this policy has become since Starr tied his name to it. And as if that wasn't enough bad news for Starr, his personal ratings are in freefall. A fresh Ipsos poll now has him at the lowest satisfaction rating of any prime minister on record since polling began in the 1970s. Just 13% of voters say they're satisfied with him. A staggering 79% are dissatisfied. That's a net rating of -66. Worse than Rishi Sunak's collapse before the 2024 election, and even worse than John Major's record low in 1994. Faced with this humiliation, Labour's response has been almost laughable. Instead of scrapping the policy, they've decided to rebrand it. That's right. The so-called Brit card won't be called that anymore, because apparently the problem isn't the idea itself. It's just the name. But let's be honest, it doesn't need rebranding. It needs scrapping. The British public has seen enough. Forcing through mandatory digital IDs, making it impossible to work without one, is not a policy that builds trust. It's a policy that erodes it. And now Starmer is reaping the consequences of yet another disastrous decision. So here's the bottom line. What Starmer thought would be his big defining moment has collapsed into a total humiliation. Support has evaporated. His cabinet is divided. Voters are furious. And the Prime Minister himself is now the most unpopular leader Britain has ever recorded. If this was meant to be the start of a new chapter for Labour, it's ended before it even began. In other news, pensioners are being hit with shock tax bills of up to 70% after trying to return tax-free lump sums to their pension pots. HMRC has ruled that savers who took out their lump sums after December 5 and then paid the money back in making an unauthorized payment. The move can trigger tax penalties of 55% in most cases and as high as 70% for some. The warning has caused alarm among retirees who believe they had a 30-day cooling-off period to change their minds, something usually offered on other financial products. Pension providers have been allowing refunds in line with Financial Conduct Authority rules, but HMRC has now made clear this is not permitted when it comes to tax-free lump sums. The tax authority said it will review affected cases individually, but admitted it has no clear figure for how many savers are caught up in the crackdown. HMRC has confirmed that unauthorized payment charges may apply if contributions to pension schemes are made out of tax-free lump sums and the conditions for the recycling rule are met. This effectively blocks savers from reversing withdrawals of their tax-free allowance even if they try to act within days. The ruling hits hardest those who rush to cash out pensions amid speculation that the Chancellor's autumn budget could cut tax relief. Reports that Rachel Reeves might slash the tax-free allowance from £268,275 to £100,000 fueled a dramatic spike in withdrawals. FCA data shows pension cash-out surged by £20 billion in 2024 to 2025 compared with the previous year, with tax-free withdrawals alone jumping 63% to £18 billion. Under current rules, over 50s can withdraw 25% of their savings tax-free up to the £268,275 cap. Many retirees rely on these lump sums to pay off mortgages or support children at university. Yet not all providers offered cooling-off periods to reverse decisions, with Aviva among those that did not allow lump sum returns. A pension provider source expressed surprise at HMRC's enforcement approach. "I am aware that some firms in the UK promoted this putting back your lump sum. Some firms were saying this is a great idea." The source questioned whether HMRC possessed data indicating significant numbers were affected, warning of huge ramifications for those individuals. Another industry source highlighted that providers requiring professional advice before cash access likely experienced fewer cancellation requests than those without such requirements. They identified a consumer protection gap that had caught them off guard. The FCA clarified that while some pensioners might possess cancellation rights through their provider contracts, these would not supersede HMRC's tax regulations. A spokesman said, "Our rules give people the right to cancel certain contracts. However, accessing tax-free cash is not a cancelable contract in its own right. Our position on this has not changed." Andrew Tully of Nucleus criticized the decision. For HMRC and FCA to determine that there are in practical terms no cancellation rights for those who want to reconsider their decision a few days later belies belief. "We run the risk of some people not understanding and ending up facing a 70% tax charge on what they expected to be a tax-free lump sum." HMRC maintained its position, with a spokesman stating, "Speculating on any changes to taxes carries risks, and customers should carefully consider their options before taking out tax-free lump sums." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you have not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.